Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gameplay Analysis and Producer Perspectives. Again, I am your host, Ray Hazlip. Welcome to another week. So, today we're going to talk about a kind of evergreen topic when it comes to video game development. Today's topic is going to be empathy in leadership. So, it should go without saying if you've ever produced or been a project manager on a video game development or publishing team before, that you're kind of a de facto leader of a certain portion of that project. Not necessarily that you do all the hiring, firing. You can leave that to HR, you can leave the directors or whatnot. But yeah, you're kind of one of the people that people turn to. You're a leader of sorts. You're definitely leading all of the meetings, and you're definitely leading the schedule on how that specific portion of that project is going to get done if you're not the producer of the entire project or the project manager of the entire project. So let's go into what empathy in leadership means. First things first, what does it mean to be a leader? It's a very silly question, I know, to some of you listening right now, but it's very important we establish some baseline. So a leader is not just someone that tells you what to do and then walks away assuming that you're going to do it. That is a boss, and they typically kind of suck, and you don't want to deal with them too much. No one likes a boss. That's just the thing. I know some people say, like, I can't wait to be a boss, or that person is a boss, or they use it in some sort of positive affirmation. They're saying it without really meaning it, or they're saying it sometimes cheekily, or they're saying it without fully understanding it, or they don't know what a leader is. They don't know that there's a better world out there. A leader is someone that tells you what to do, not just what to do, but how to do it. And then they give you expected timelines of when they want it done. And they give you an expected outcome of what it should look like. They give you a what does good look like, or what does bad look like, and here's what we should avoid. That's what a leader does. Typically also a leader is right there with you, helping to make sure that you get it done. They'll have some minimal working knowledge of what the task or the project, the end of the project should look like, and they are trying to lead you to get there to that end of the project. So I have, personally speaking, both accepted jobs and left jobs, or at least partly these reasons have been because I absolutely did not like my leaders of the project. They became bosses. They didn't know what good looked like. And even when they did, they didn't always know how to achieve it, or they didn't want to achieve it in, we'll say, a sustainable way. They would just say, do this. We don't care what it takes to get it done. Just get it done. And if you ask for something like, can I have more resources, such as, well, can I have more headcount? Or the amount of time that you gave me is insubstantial. Could we possibly get more time, or could we argue for more time? And they'll say no to everything. They're like, listen, I've given you enough time by just having this conversation. Just go get it done. That sucks. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to some people that are listening to this right now. And try not to be that person that actually does it out there when you become a leader, or if you are currently a leader in some role. It feels bad, and you know it feels bad to have done to you. It is way better for someone to empathize your situation of what the project or task is supposed to be like, and to actually do it. As a matter of fact, speaking of empathy, let's talk about what empathy in leadership looks like. We'll start off a little bit by saying, what does it mean to have empathy, especially in the workplace? It means you are acknowledging someone's individual situation, and you are adjusting the work plans or your task plans or your timelines as much as you can around that. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's have a very honest and serious conversation about video game development. Game development is just software development, but you're making a digital toy. Now, someone's going to argue with me and say, well, we're making art. Yes, video games are art. I have been the biggest proponent of that. before I even got my degree in making video games. Video games are art, but they are also toys. It could be multiple things. So you're going to have people from all different stripes, sizes, colors, takes, situations that not only want to get into game development, but are actually very skilled in video game development. You will have people like I've said this to a couple of my friends before, and I'll say it on a podcast for posterity. You don't get into game development being, we'll say, a right-wing conservative and expecting all of your views to be respected. That's not what's going to happen. I would say a large part of people that make video games are somewhere in the LGBT community. Most people, not all. I'm not, but I would be remiss to say like a lot of people I worked with were. A lot of people that make video games have kids. They are family members. They are either fathers or mothers, sometimes single fathers, sometimes single mothers. They come from a lot of different backgrounds. And some people making games could be not getting paid enough to live inside or near inside the area where the studio is, or even near the studio. This has happened to me in several different companies I've worked for. When I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was working for Wargaming of America, it was in one of the core parts of the Bay. It was in Emeryville, which, if you don't know where Emeryville is, we were about a rock's throw away from Pixar. Maybe a pretty far throw, but still, we were walking distance away from it. Very, very close. That specific studio doesn't exist anymore. We closed down the San Francisco studio because, shock and awe, it was expensive to maintain. But I lived quite a distance away from that studio. If I recall correctly, my very first apartment when I moved there was about 25 miles away. It was about a 1 hour highway commute if we did it at just the right time. If we did it at the wrong time, ooh-wee, that was about an hour and a half sometimes just to go 25 miles. The situation of driving in the Bay Area sucks, and it's awful. Eventually, I moved slightly closer. Maybe instead of 25 miles, it was 14 miles away. That was better, and I eventually started taking the light rail that they have there, the BART. But that was still a distance. That was still about 45 minutes in the busy time. I'm talking like 9 a.m. to get to work. That's even still taking the BART. The BART was quick. It was like 15 minutes. But I would still have to drive to the BART station, which would be another 15 minutes. Then I had to walk a mile and a half after I got out of the BART. That would sometimes take about 25 minutes to half an hour, just depending. So it would get me to the area, but I'm still having to do some sort of commute. There was a bus that I could take. That bus still took me about 20 to 25 minutes, even still. Occasionally I did take it, but it was a commute. So factoring that empathy of, especially if you're in a busy downtown core area, the fact that people have long commutes, that's something you have to factor in as well. What if someone has a different, going back to empathy, what if someone has a completely different psychological, we'll say, issue, or I don't want to say ailment. Some people have said that this is a form of disability. I don't know if I'm necessarily personally comfortable saying it because I don't have these, but it is up to you to decide. What if you have ASD or ADHD? Here's a little secret for a lot of people that did not know this. A very large majority of people that work in the video game industry have some form of ADHD, or they are on the autism spectrum. They have autism spectrum disorder. Sometimes just depending where they are on it. And this is not a negative towards people with that or are on the spectrum, or it's not like a slight against anyone like that. These are still phenomenal human beings that are going to be some of the hardest workers you have in the game industry. But you do have to take account for sometimes the social issues that comes with that. Switching from one topic to another, sometimes breaking someone's hyper focus from one specific task to doing another task, or accounting for the fact that asking them to break from that will be a very difficult transition. It's a whole different form of empathetic thinking that will be difficult for a lot of people working in the game industry that are leaders that will have to adjust to it. There are some people that are project managers and producers that do also have ADHD. I will say people that have ADHD that are producers also are doing a large form of struggling. Part of ADHD is you do struggle with task management and organization. So imagine that that is your key job, task management and organization, and you have a condition that also makes that difficult. That is a different form of empathetic thinking. And of course, they probably have to talk to their directors or maybe their higher up producers to go ahead and get assistance with that. All this to say is that when you account for all of these things, being a leader in video games is difficult. It's not difficult as in like you're a construction worker difficult. Don't get that confused. It's still like you're in an air-conditioned building in front of a computer for 99% of your time. But it is difficult in that it is still computer software development, but you are working with a lot of people that are also trying to make sure that the type of toy that they're making in the computer software development is fun. All the lights and the shapes that you're building with this toy are so fun that a lot of people will be willing to spend, depending on the video game that you're making, between $5 to $70 to one day buy it. I'm not even going to dignify the $80 thing. We're not talking about that right now. Not yet. So, how do you make sure that you're empathetic in your leadership? Well, one thing I would always do is always make sure you're accounting for the golden rule of treat others of how you want to be treated, as how you would want to be treated. And I know that sounds dumb and cliche, and you've been hearing that since you were a child, but it absolutely works. Do you want to get a message that could help build anxiety? Here's a free tip. Never, ever, ever give someone a message that says, hey, can you come meet me in my office tomorrow at 1 p.m. and you tell them that at 3 p.m. that day, because they're going to spend the next 22 hours in a rut of anxiety. Most people will. Don't do that. As an example of how to assuage that, to build empathetic choices in your words and in leadership, say something like, hey, tomorrow I would like to meet you about X, state the reason. And can you meet me tomorrow at 1 p.m. and we could talk about it then, but don't worry about it. Here's what the topic is going to be. Give a bullet point of what the conversation is going to be like. It'll take you an additional 3 to 5 minutes, but that additional 3 to 5 minutes, that's going to lift away so many worries that staff member or employee is going to have about what that meeting is going to be about. Most people do not understand that producers and project managers typically in game studios can't fire them. Like very, very few studios have a producer or project manager that's in a ability to hire and fire people. You can be on hiring boards and you can also make recommendations for firing, but very rarely can you directly do that depending on the studio size. Moving on, another one that you could do is when someone works really hard on a piece of a project or a task or something along those lines, and it's absolutely not what you're looking for, don't just say, we can't deliver that. This isn't what we're looking for. We're going to have to completely redo it. You can go ahead and reword that. You could say, tell you what, I really, really appreciate that you spent a lot of time on this. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to use it just at this time. But what we can do is we can go ahead and put this in the backlog and see if we can use it at a later date. Unfortunately, something has changed in the project and we can't make use of it right now. But let's go ahead and find something else for you to work on so we can make a better use of your time. That's way better than saying, we're not going to use your work. Let's put you on something else immediately. This was a waste of time. There are differences that you can make there. So what does this do? These are very small little things that you could do. But if you keep doing them, they add up. And what that adds up to is an employee that's, one, willing to stay with you a lot longer They're willing to build a relationship with you. Not like that sort of relationship. I mean a good working relationship. And they'd be willing to go to bat for you in case you happen to get in trouble for a project. In case a director comes down and says, I don't think, we'll just take me, I don't think Ray is doing their job very well. Let me go ask this employee over here. That employee, they're going to remember all the times that you have treated them well. And they will say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Ray is my go-to. Ray is my G. Get away from them. Don't you dare badmouth them. I'm going to go back to doing the work. Don't you go ahead and say anything bad about Ray right now. That has happened to me in real life. And it is not impossible to happen to any of you, so long as you have a large group of employees that are willing to work for you. I have done it myself. I have name dropped a couple of different people that I've worked with in the past where someone has asked, hey, is this person doing work? And I remember all the times that that person treated me well and said, yeah, what, you got something bad to say about them right now? Because we're about to throw hands. I didn't actually say I was going to fight, but I was thinking that, you know? That's one way you could build empathy and leadership. Obviously, as someone that is an instructor at a university that teaches this, I can't give away all my secrets. Students are actually going to pay me for that. But I will go ahead and drop more tidbits about this later on. What do you think about these tidbits in learning how to be more effective in the video game industry? You want to hear more? Because more are coming. You want to hear different ones? You want to hear different topics? Leave a comment. I'd love for you to go ahead and hit subscribe if you're listening to the audio version of this on the podcast. Love for you to leave a rating. That really helps. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have yourself a pleasant week.